You ready for bed?
Yeah. It's on my blanket.
We gotta read this story so we can go to the pumpkin patch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Alright, so tonight we're gonna read Snow White and Rose Red. This is in the... What is it in? It's in the Children's Classic Stories on the Google Play Store. So, we read a few. I didn't record, but I don't think I've ever heard of this one, so. Once upon a time. Come sit down, babe, so you can hear the story. Come on, come on, come on, come on. We gotta get up in the morning.
I'm a princess.
Thank you. Once upon a time, there lived an old widow with her 2 daughters, Snow White and Rose Red, in her little cottage in the middle of the woods. Snow White was gentle and kind, and of a quiet nature. Her sister, Rose Red, however, was wild-spirited, but much like her sister, she too was kind. One cold winter's day, their mother asked them to warm the fireplace and to bolt all the doors and the windows, for it would be especially chilly that night. The girls did as they were told. At night, there was a knock on the door, which frightened all 3 of them. Whoever could that be, their mother wondered. "Do not worry, Mother," Snow White said. "We shall see who is at the door." So the sister unbolted the door, and there stood a great big brown furry bear. The sister shrank back in fright and would have shut the door when the bear spoke. Please do not afraid, little girls," he said. "I only wish to rest in your little cottage for the night. There is a hunting party, and if they catch me, I'll be dead." "Oh, of course," said Red Rose. "Please do come in, Mr. Bear." The bear lay down in front of the fireplace and then asked, "If you would be so kind to brush the snow off my fur, I would be grateful." Red Rose at once got the big broom and began to brush away the snow from his fur. Their mother set the pot on the fire to make some soup for them all.
Mama, this is how Snow White looks.
That's how she looks?
Yeah.
Okay. After Red Rose had finished brushing the snow off from his fur, Snow White offered him a hot bowl of soup. The bear gulped it down, for he was very hungry, and then slept off in front of the fireplace. I feel like this book is missing words. But okay. The next morning he woke up, bade the family farewell, and left the cottage. He was back again at night, and that is how the girls spent their winter with the bear. They grew very fond of him, as he did of them, and they began to speak to one another long into the night. The girls began to look forward to his visits. When spring broke, the bear told the girls, "Snow White, Rose Red, you have showed me more kindness than anyone else, and for that I thank you. Now, I shall have to go away for a little while to guard my treasures." "But won't you come back?" Snow White asked, feeling sorry to see her friend go. "I will one day," the bear promised. The girls missed their friend from the winter, but soon became engaged in their daily lives again. One day, they went to the well to get some water when they came across a dwarf whose beard was stuck in the trunk of a fallen tree. Seeing the 2 girls, he cried out angrily, "Well, don't just stand there. Come and help me." Snow White and Rose Red hurried over and tugged, but the trunk would not move. So Snow White took out a pair of scissors from her pocket and snipped off the end of the dwarf's beard. Instead of thanking the girls, however, the dwarf yelled, "You horrid girls just had to snip my beard," and stalked off. A few days later, my head itches. My bad. A few days later, they met the dwarf again. when they went fishing and saw that his beard was caught in the fishing net. Although they tugged and pulled, there was no freeing the dwarf. Rose Red snipped off the end of his beard again with a pair of scissors. Once again, the dwarf did not thank the girls for their help. "You two are nasty little girls," he shouted, "always snipping off my beard." The girls were so shocked by the dwarf's rude behavior, they could not speak a word. The dwarf marched away, muttering angrily to himself. When the spring fair began, Snow White and Rose Red decided to visit and buy new hair ribbons for themselves. They had a lot of fun in the fair, ate goodies, and walked around looking for the ribbons. On their way back home, they found the dwarf struggling in talons of an eagle. The eagle looked extremely pleased with itself for having caught a prey. Seeing the two girls, the dwarf shouted out, "Don't just stand there, you stupid girls. Do something." Snow White and Rose Red found the broken branch of a tree, and together used it to nudge the eagle. The eagle gave a cry and dropped the dwarf on the ground before it flew off. The dwarf was displeased, for he had landed rather hard on his back. "Why are you girls always so horrid to me?" he shrieked angrily, and once again he ran off. Being good and kind, Snow White and Rose Red did not think much of the rude little dwarf's behavior. Instead, laughed at how much anger
Mama,
the
for
little
me and Addie and you.
the little being could hold inside of him. Hold on, honey. I had to finish the story. They ran into the dwarf again a few days later.
Daddy, I got some tea for you.
All right, where was I? They ran into the dwarf again a few days later, sitting by the banks of the river, counting his loot of gold and coins and precious stones. "You two again?" he yelled when he spotted Snow White and Rose Red. "Why are you two horrid girls always where I am? Why can't you leave me alone?" "That is very rude," Rose Red said, finally losing her patience. "We have been saving your life, you know." "Because you two can never stay out of my..." But the rest of the dwarf's words were lost, for the bear had appeared out of nowhere and given him a great kick. The dwarf flew into the air, and no one... Oh my God, my face is itchy. And no one knew where he finally landed. Snow White and Rose Red looked around to thank the bear, where lo and behold stood a handsome young prince dressed in the finest of velvet. "Where's our friend the bear?" Snow White asked. "Don't worry, dear girls," the prince laughed. "It is me." The rude dwarf had put a spell on me and turned me into a bear so that he could steal my treasures. But now the spell has finally broken. Oh, wow. The dwarf put a spell on the bear, and now the spell is broken. The girls were delighted and took the prince back home to the cottage for some hot soup and share the tale. After which, the prince took them all back to his castle. He was then married to Snow White, and his brother was to marry Rose Red. The dwarf was never seen or heard from again, and in the castle they all lived happily ever after. The end. Did you like that story?
Yeah.
The next story is The Emperor's New Clothes. All right. I love you.
Good night.
I love you.
Good night.
I love you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.